Hey everybody, Brian Von Vier. One simple question here. What's the most badass line that you've heard your players say? We were fighting an evil jester mage who was revealed to have dozens of clones of himself. The fighter took out a few of the clones, one of whom used a bomb to take itself out and hurt the fighter. The fighter then encountered the very last clone who attempted the same strategy, only for the fighter to yell, "Ha ha 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 ha! Jokes aren't as funny the second time around!" And then crit the clone's head off. I'm going to toot my own horn here, but I loved dropping this line. As a high-level conquest paladin on a mission to rescue some hostages from a cult, the party managed to storm into the cult chapel in the middle of a service. My paladin waltzed into the center of the room and said, "Oh good, you're already praying. You're gonna need it." This is a simple one, but it felt really good. I was playing a rogue in a dungeon crawl one-shot. I did the classic scout ahead of the party and loot the treasure room early bit, but the boss of the dungeon caught me in the act. I scrambled up a bas relief on the wall, but the dungeon boss was an ogre, so even up there, he was nearly able to reach me. He was taunting me, and I was trying to figure out what to do when the rest of the party showed up, unseen by the boss, who was focused on me. I get chills when I remember the barbarian growling, "You're looking the wrong damn way!" right before he crit on both attacks and nearly one-hit killed the boss. I was DMing a game, and during some downtime, I had a cleric NPC experience a sort of crisis of faith and chat with the party cleric. The NPC goes, "How do I know what I'm doing is right if my god wants one thing, but my conscience says another?" The party cleric responds, "Well, you know, think of life like a coloring book. My god draws the lines for me, and it's up to me how I want to color them in. Sometimes I'll end up going outside of the lines, and that's okay. My goal is still to color the drawing and make something beautiful." As a DM, I was stunned. Note, I'm a terrible Christian and my friend is agnostic, but that was more profound than anything I've heard in church. I was running a game for a group, and the cleric was using a homebrew subclass I made, Judgment Domain. When they got to the big bad evil guy, he said, "Have you prepared to face the consequences of your actions?" As the big bad evil guy was dying, 0 HP, they had already won. The cleric came up, grabbed his head and said, "I'm not here to judge you. My job is to send you to the one who will," before breaking his neck. During an accidental jaunt into the Fey Wild, as one does when the GPS is broken, a Fey Lord took insult to some of the party's social faux pas at a fancy Fey fete, and challenged them to a battle of wits. Without missing a beat, my very socially awkward friend, who I usually have to ask directly for their contribution, retorted, "I was always taught not to attack an unarmed man." Naturally, that Fey had to hide in shame and became the party's new nemesis. Huge moment in the campaign against an Elder God aberration-type cult-making monster that was taking over the magic. We woke it up early and it said, "Who are you? Where is this?" The PC replied, "We're the people of Faerun, and this is your tomb." Fight ensues. My players are on a quest to collect pieces of an artifact to stop the big bad evil guy from collecting them. Every artifact is protected by a knight from an ancient order, each named after the ancient families that hid those pieces many centuries ago. In this case, the knight was called Duty. Fast forward to the last phase of the fight, and they're hanging on for dear life. The fighter uses his first attack, hits. Second attack, misses. Goes to action surge. Third attack, misses. Then he gets to his final attack. And he rolls a goddamn nat 20. He goes, "Duty, then rolls almost max damage. Ugh! Fulfilled. And at last, he turns the knight back into a statue, claiming victory for the party! One of the most epic finishes I've ever witnessed. In a light Western campaign, we had just caught a serial kidnapper arc villain and finished interrogating him. He started on about some spiel about how we would face some comeuppance for crossing him when our gunslinger fighter calmly reached into her ammo bag and flicked a bullet at the guy's face. She then said, "Next one's coming at you faster," and strode away. Still the coldest line I've heard in 15 years of playing. I love her. I don't know if this counts, but I felt cool as hell after saying it. Totally counts then. High five. Essentially, I have this warlock whose patron is possessing him, and because he's a bit of a coward, whenever he's in combat, the patron takes over. So we were fighting this bugbear, and he was at half health or something like that, I'm pretty sure. The DM pretty much set me up by saying, "This scrawny thing is your last resort. Don't make me laugh." To which my patron responded before taking over, "It's not him you have to worry about. Shapeshift. But you won't live long enough to figure that out." And I'm so grateful that I one-hit KO'd him because that would have been so embarrassing if I hadn't. Confronting the general of a mercenary army who had attacked the city, the party was trying to get him to spill who hired him. The general said something along the lines of, "You clearly had a comfortable upbringing. Otherwise, you'd know no employer gives away their identity in this line of work." To which our artificer, who has lived in the city their entire life, responded, "Then we don't need to bother taking you alive." Jerry, the 90-year-old human psychic sorcerer. Phantasmal Force was a go-to spell of his, and it genuinely weirded out his group. The group was being attacked in the city, and as per usual, Jerry started by singling out a person and working his way through. NPC's POV, point of view. An old man sighs wearily and mumbles under his breath. Then the brick wall next to the baddie leaps out, wraps around him, and begins dragging him into the brick and mortar, crushing him to death. The baddie struggles, tearing at the bricks, but nothing works, and he is slowly crushed to death. Party's POV. Jerry sighs and says, "Not worth my time," and waves his cane. The baddie hurls himself against the brick wall next to him and starts clawing at himself, blood pouring out of his ears and nose as he screams. Jerry turns and points his cane at another guy. "You! Are you worth my time?" The Necromancer PC I DM for got engaged in a duel with an archmage of a magic college. It was supposed to be a duel until someone yielded. She proceeds to hit him with Disintegrate on the first turn, followed by a 50 damage Blight, which straight up kills him. As the attendants rush to check on the fallen archmage, she readies another Blight and shouts, "Does he yield?" The same PC also got the nickname Conductor of Corpses due to casting Danse Macabre a lot, and obliterated a few paladins while saying, "You call me Conductor, so witness my symphony!" You know, this got me thinking about a LARP I played many, many years ago. I was playing a hulking great warrior with a very simple outlook on life. He had friends, and there was everyone else. If someone threatened his friends, he killed them. No hesitation. Another player had a very traumatized escaped slave. We just only met. But, for whatever reason, my character very quickly decided that she was a friend. Later that day, her former master turned up to reclaim his property, cough cough. This culminated in her, trapped inside a force wall, watching my character charge through a barrage of spells to utterly obliterate this guy, the monster from her nightmares for most of her life, reduced to a bloody pulp before her. As we were catching our breath, and someone smarter than me was breaking the force wall spell, she asked why I had fought for her. I just shrugged and said something like, "You're my friend." And that was that. I think I kind of broke her out for a bit. We were fighting a giant undead wolf in an underground cavern that attacked us from one end, while on the other end, we were assailed by a kind of yeti. Both were huge! Not D&D huge. I'm not sure what their sizes were officially, but they were big! My monk basically climbed all over the wolf, hitting pressure points to bring it down. The final blow was when he was atop its crown, and he said matter-of-factly, "Heal!" And it was knocked out cold. A lot of the coolness for me was in the narration of the physicality. I tend to lean toward martials, and being able to narrate physical movement dynamically is my favorite. In my current group, I'm playing a 245-year-old female halfling Damphir bard. In a battle about a month or two ago, our dwarf ranger was killed. Okay, first he's a dwarf ranger, I already love him. On my turn, with only 25% of my HP left, I strode up to the feral vampire that killed her and angrily said, "You killed my friend, and I don't make many friends!" Rolled a nat 20, and for flair said that I jammed my short sword up into its abdomen, twisted, and jerked the sword out of the side, killing it. After the battle, I had my character hold the lifeless body of the dwarf and, while crying, rock back and forth, repeatedly saying, "I don't make many friends." My RP and description of what was happening made the dwarf's player cry. Oversimplified and a bit of a "you had to be there" moment, but the party was fighting a pretend frost giant god named Kaza. They ended up befriending a red dragon to help them in the fight in exchange for a magical artifact. They then faked destroying the magical artifact as if by divine intervention, rolling like champions the whole time to bluff it, ending with one of the players going, "Now why would Kaza do this?" After it was destroyed, to continue securing the loyalty of the dragon. A bold play, and the multiple nat 20s definitely made it insane. While DMing, we were introducing a new player who is a bit of a gray area character, an anti-hero to say the least. He was taunting some of the group, saying he wanted to gauge their strength. Well, he kept calling one of the players a homunculus, which the player was, and it had been established in the lore that they're kind of freaks of nature. So, the homunculus player accepts his duel on a single term. "If I win, you'll call me by my goddamn name." The amount of whooping and hollering from the table before the fight was ridiculous. The player did indeed win the PvP between them, and that is a cherry on top. My Twilight Cleric had insanely good rolls during one combat, killing several goblins very quickly with Spirit Guardians, his Warhammer, and Toll the Dead. At the end, I walked up to the last goblin shaman and pinned his throat against the wall with my Warhammer. "I just incinerated 7 of your tribesmen in holy fire. Whatever hope you have of escaping alive is non-existent. But please, feel free to try." Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course, if you'd like to help us keep the lights on, it would do us a real pleasure if you would join our membership. You don't have to, but if you do, you might get some real fancy things in the background like, I don't know, early access to videos, and some outtakes too. We love you all, see you next time, and bye for now.